Welcome. We gather here together to train our hearts and minds on a place and a time kin to our own. Cursed, it seems, to succumb to their own desperate and tragic end. They call, and we hear them. They are hurt, and we accept their pain. They are at their end, and we will carry them on in our memory. Bear witness to the voices from the Umbra. Introducing the Green Thumb.
This message is intended for my brain. Quit making mountains out of molehills. If we wanted mountains, we'd go to the mountains. You know that. The doctor is going to be so smug if I tell him. It's exactly what he's been preaching. There's certainly something wrong with my mind. Misfires and miscommunications, as he's fond of saying.
I've got my garden. My garden has pests. I'm not special.
I'm just fighting the same battle humans have fought since gardens began.
Some places have moles. Some have deer.
Some have locusts. I just happen to have people. It shows me just how silly a lot of my anger is, like a man who didn't put up fences complaining of deer. Like a man who didn't weed his garden complaining about bad crops. Like a man who jumps complaining when he falls. It's entirely natural. There's a pity that makes my heart heavy. Carol Ann and I talk about it in our own way, but no matter how cute the little mice are, we can't have them in cupboards now, can we? And so we must discourage them. Humans, though. Humans are different. They are just a different thing altogether. A bit more complicated. Not deterred by powders and sprays, able to sneak and plot and use teamwork. A mousetrap won't work for this job. Not even a bear trap. Even if I could track one down. Nothing that direct. Secret. Hidden. And they can never know it's me. They'll all suspect, but they'll never know. Any general in a war would tell you that you have all your supplies in one spot, asking for it. And a big IT trouble. You get some leeway just because you don't happen to know we're at war, because I'm very outnumbered. So I've got to use what advantages I have. I know where your little larder is. Big rodents, giant rats, massive mole people. I know where you keep your food. And I know that it has a window. A school isn't a base, and you can't defend it like one, especially without light. Oh, there'll be enough of that soon. Who knows how a fire starts? It's difficult to track a thing down like that, even when the world was whole. And when they run to me, they'll find me, as I always am, tending to my garden.
Angry and odd and oblivious to them.
Busy working and with no time for their nonsense. I have worked hard this morning, harder than most days, stacking wood and preparing, Tall fences make good neighbors. I did my best. This message is intended for the food, and the medicine, and the extra everything. The winter's contingency plans?
I'll be seeing you very soon.
This message is intended for the doctor's friend. Inspirational, even after the end. Maybe I can make him a little tombstone, or just toss a rock up there and call it good. They'll be noticing soon. I can smell the smoke when the wind is right. It's very faint, but it's growing. Carol Ann is practically vibrating with excitement. What can a proud father say? One of my children was bullied, and my other child is excited to see it put right. It's only fitting. I haven't told her this yet.
No, I haven't. I've been keeping a little secret, a little Christmas present surprise for you.
Her giggle is a replacement, enough for 1,000,000 missing Christmas lights. Although we should have some pretty reds and oranges soon. 3 rats ran out after I set the fire. True rodents, not people. Smart enough to get while the getting was good and then get the hell out. It'll be interesting to see if anybody says goodbye to Lincoln after this. I doubt people are as perceptive as rats. But maybe I'm just bitter. I won't pretend it doesn't hurt my heart a bit. Feeling like spraying ants in your house. You don't expressly want them to suffer or hurt, but you also are not going to have them in your house, are you? The saddest thing is the
Children.
I feel like they could have come around so much faster on their own. Away from their parents without their eyelids. Away from the parents with the pointed faces. Away from the old and on to the new. Something to meditate on, I suppose. There it goes. Won't be long now. It's a lot brighter than I thought it'd be. Even this far away. Carol Ann and I have our actor faces on. We've got knives stuck too. Can't be too careful. Not with scared animals. The human capacity to surprise is incredible. It's one of the things that makes them so dangerous. It's what Carol Ann warns me about. Sometimes it's a sudden death, sometimes it's a punchline. They couldn't show kindness at the beginning because they didn't think I deserved it. They didn't show kindness in the middle because they knew I was less and them more. They didn't show kindness before the fire ate what they might have.
But they sure showed kindness now.
They came together, a great mass, indistinguishable from the blobs. The doctor led them to me. Some had obviously tried to battle the flames. Some had lost hair, clothes. Skid, 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 skid. When it rains, it pours, and when it burns, well, they know what happens when it burns. I didn't know what I would say when they reached me. You can't plan for something like that, not the specifics of it. I felt fear. I didn't want to admit it, but I felt it. It's better to be honest about the fear, about the worry. There were so many. My knife wouldn't have done a thing.
They would have smothered me like bees on an invading hornet.
Luckily, there was a goddess, the savior. She spoke through my mouth. My child, my Carol Ann. She took control of me and made everything right. She had me talk about my own burnt garden. She said there must have been a firebug among the refugees, a psychopath. Said we needed to find them quickly before its bodies being burnt instead of the plants and food. There was a shift at that. Nervous glances around. All of a sudden, I wasn't the enemy. All of a sudden, one of them didn't belong. One of them was a cancer, wanting to kill us all, and nobody knew who it was. What does the new king do with his kingdom? Bought with the hunger of the masses, raised on stones of fire and fear, chained to their need for sustenance.
The king makes them work for his love, though he knows he will never give it.
Introducing the Animalist.
The time is close. It can't be long now. The buggy puppy in his little shelter has been moving. Writhing, more like. The home has served the purpose, but now it's too small, and it must be abandoned. The past must be left behind for the betterment of the future. And so it goes, and so it goes, and on, and on, and on. And what is that future, huh? That's a question. Being away from your subject of obsession for a good while, it acts as sort of a detox. I don't think about the man much anymore. Even if he's still alive, which I doubt. He only runs through my mind every day now, instead of every minute. I can forget him for hours at a time.
I think that's healthy.
I think I'm doing well. The bug dog does well, so I do well. The bug pup heals, and so I heal. The once dog, now bug, grows fat on the results of my violence, just as the violence feeds my mind and keeps me sane. Being in one spot for so long with nothing to do, waiting for a loved one to either pull through and heal or sink lower into the lake toward the murk of death. No, I'm losing it again.
My mind is so soft and the world is so hard.
I didn't used to be this way, did I? What happened? The world didn't used to be like this.
I'm almost sure of it.
There used to be a time when the birds owned the sky and not the drifters. There used to be a time when people were separate. I think I remember times like that, but what good has remembering the past ever done? The bug pup is dripping again. There's a puddle of mud below the shell, and it's growing. I don't know if it's being picked up, but it's loud to me. The dripping, the constant dripping. It'd be enough to drive me insane, except, well, here we are. I'm prepared, as much as I can be. Ready to receive whatever comes out. Is that why you chose the barn, silly thing? A barn is a good place for birth, I suppose. I probably wouldn't even have thought of it. Instincts are powerful, aren't they? It's just occurred to me, and this is silly, I know. A bit lately, dumbass. But it just occurred to me that caterpillars don't come out of the chrysalis as caterpillars. They change. They melt. And I guess for a while I was laboring under the delusion that this was a way for the bug pup to heal from whatever happened on the way here. But that's not right, is it? You're changing. I mean, you were changing before, obviously, but this is bigger, isn't it? That's why you're leaking and dripping. That's why you're in my dreams and daydreams. That's why, even when I'm out hunting for you, I can still hear the dripping. That's why I feel so claustrophobic, even under the biggest sky in the middle of the loneliest field.
That's why I don't use my hands to take out the drifter pits anymore. It's so much more satisfying to use my teeth.
That's why I know that I'm melting too, just inside my mind. My skull is my shell, and my shell is going to crack. And I don't know what's going to come out. again. I missed you. Silly thing. The abdication of responsibility is a drug that I can see myself becoming quickly addicted to. You don't realize how much of a toll being the sentient one can take until you're the only one around with a combination of brains and opposable thumbs. It's like being the captain on a ghost ship. Sure, nobody contradicts you, but you're the only one to steer and to plot and to bail when needed. It takes a toll on the body and on the spirit and, of course, on the mind. But those problems are in the past now. So many problems are in the past now. If not gone, at least forgotten, pushed back, unimportant on this new day. This beautiful day.
This birthday.
Corrections and apologies are in order. Misnomers and false names and memory loss and the complete audacity of our species has served to offend those newly awakened. And we only find out now because we weren't paying enough attention before. So, as an offender myself, let me be the first to begin the introduction eulogies. I do so with a humble spirit, and I acknowledge the gifts I've been given. Don, Donald, Bug Pup, Buggy Puppy, the animal purportedly rescued in the mountains by one lonely creature.
Me, myself, I, ego, human, the being wandering lost and alone in the wasteland of a world that used to make some sort of sense.
We don't mourn their passing, but we do acknowledge those that came before and thank them for what they've done. 2 creatures entered the barn. 1 creature is leaving. My belly, my core, will serve as purchase. My carotid artery will serve as fuel. It just makes sense. I give my blood to the new piece of myself, and that new piece gets tapped into my brain, and we are one. Proboscis didn't even hurt when it pierced my neck, but the vision through my new eyes takes some getting used to. Humans aren't made to deal with perspective, it seems, but no matter.
I'm not human anymore.
Not really. The claws hurt when they attach to my ribs, but the pain is dull compared to the sharp edge of new consciousness. I never realized how lonely my mind was until I finally had some company. All the math I learned was wrong. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 anymore. Just a happier 1. Finally.
Introducing the homebody.
You don't mind if I record us this time, do you? I know I usually try to do it on my own, but this has become a little ritual for us, and I'd like to, document it. If you don't mind, I'm fine either way. Oh, you're the best. Really, thank you. So, if I'm honest, this isn't the normal sort of art stuff that I usually do. The sketches and the faces and all that nonsense. The dark stuff. This is actually a poster. I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of famous for my posters. Well, famous with everyone I've met out here, at least. Which is really only me. Little joke. Don't worry, I was never good at jokes. At least some things never change, am I right? The sun comes up in the east, and I can't tell a joke to save my life. Not even the silly ones that you'd expect from a... But, anyway, what was I saying? Posters. Right, posters. So, I'm not from here. You know that. I've told you, about the little town that I came from. And, I suppose the reason I actually left it was to put up these posters and find myself a wife. A little company through the end of times here. Oh, don't worry. I'm not gonna get down on my knees with a ring or anything here. That's not what this is. Can you imagine? No. It might seem silly or kinda, whatever. But I think that a proposal has to be somewhere beautiful. Somewhere special. What do you think? So, yeah, I probably put up about 1 million of those posters. My little cries for attention. And, I've got the urge to keep doing it. But I'm not exactly looking for anyone now. Not that I'd turn anybody down that wanted to be friends. I'm just, what's the word? Content. I feel like an asshole. I do. I feel like a big asshole for what I've done here. So when I do my little drawings, or like yesterday when I'm making posters, I always put out some extra paper and a few markers for Janice. To be polite. And sometimes they grab them and wave them a bit. Sometimes they ignore them. But last night, toward the end, they actually started drawing. It's hard to tell whose limbs belong to who, or whether they are all just, belong to Janice as a whole. But it looked like one of the younger ones grabbed a marker, and a bigger arm kind of flopped down on the table and held the paper in place, and boom. Janice was off to the races. I tried not to make a big deal out of it or anything, but I was pretty damn excited. For all the connection we have with one another, communication has been kind of a roadblock for us, so I actually thought they were writing me a note at first. Wishful thinking, probably, but that's where the mind went. I didn't want to be that rude person that watches somebody else work, so I just kept up my chatter and focused on what I was doing, and eventually we both finished and just went on with our night. And then I snuck back in and stole the paper. Like a little thief. Like somebody afraid to ask their crush who resorts to staring into their window like a creep. I had to know what it was, but it never seemed like the right time to ask, and it's been so long since I've had any kind of social life whatsoever that I don't remember the rules for this kind of thing. The drawing reminds me of one of those tests that a shrink might give you. Look at this weird picture and tell me what you see. I don't know what the hell they're called. No, never took one myself. Only time I ever needed a therapist was after all of them were gone. Even then, what the fuck would they do? Kind of like the doctor thing I mentioned. Probably just tell me how screwed I am. Professionally, of course. So with all the artistic kinds of things I've been doing lately, a memory keeps popping into my head. Over and over and over again. I don't like it. I don't want it there, but, well, you don't always get to make those choices, I guess. Putting it out of my mind doesn't work. Distracting myself doesn't work. Might as well just come out with it. Exercise the demons, you know? Nothing for it, I suppose. I drooled on a kid's drawing once. Must have been 2nd grade or something like that. Nice kid. I don't even remember his name, but he was nice enough. Good with crayons. Born artist. He drew a car. Wanted me to look at it. When I bent over, I guess I had too much spit in my mouth or something, and a big old line of drool just went splat. Right onto the picture. It was an accident. But the kid didn't buy it. He was pissed. Thought his picture was ruined and that I'd done it on purpose. If he'd have just looked at my face and how red it was, he might have seen that I was just as embarrassed as he was angry. He told the teacher, who didn't care, but he did it loud enough that everyone in the class heard. And all of a sudden, I was the center of attention. Everybody knew that I had drooled on the paper like a fucking toddler, and all my embarrassment turned to anger in a second. It took everything I had to just go sit down again. Didn't want to. I wanted to punch that little fuck in the mouth for embarrassing me like that. Over an accident. Hold my hands around his throat and ask him if it was worth it. Pointing out my mistake like that to everybody. Make him hurt like he made me hurt.
I was bigger and stronger. I could have kicked his ass if I wanted to.
Part of me still wants to, if I'm honest. The little kid inside of me still wants to throw that kid onto the ground and stomp his head until it's jelly. That's kind of how I feel about taking the drawing. Not exactly, but it's close enough for Jazz. The embarrassment wants to become anger. I know I did something wrong. Even if it wasn't too much of an accident this time, and instead of just admitting it, I want to burn the damn thing so the evidence is gone. But that's the thing about being so alone. Even if the evidence is gone, who else would have done it? It's like an only child lying about breaking something in the house. Stupid. There's nobody else it could be. Own it. I know I have to. Knowing and doing, though, are two different things. So I have something I need to say. I'm recording it too, just so you know. Just for my own accountability. Fuck. Okay. I'll just get to it then. I took your drawing the other day. I didn't ask and I took it. And it was wrong. And I'm sorry. I didn't mean to invade your privacy or anything like that. I was just curious. And it was right there, and I feel really shitty about it. So here, you can have it back if you want. I'm sorry. I don't want this to ruin our friendship here, but I understand if you're upset with me, and I accept that. I deserve it. Absolutely. No question. Do you not want it back? You don't have to give it to me just because I took it. That's not how things are supposed to work. Unless you didn't leave it behind on accident. Unless you wanted me to take it. I don't want to assume anything. Are we okay? You and I. Okay, I'll just keep it then, I suppose. But if you ever want it back, you just tell me. Or just take it. It's yours after all. Again, I'm sorry. I'll try to be better. I'm sorry. Fuck. I am a dumbass. I am so... God damn, it's a miracle I can even tie my shoes with this brain. So, I've been studying the picture Janice drew. Or, God, what's a better word?
Obsessing.
I've been obsessing over the picture Janice drew. It didn't start out that way. Started as looking, turned into obsessing, and finally into understanding. Janice is more perceptive than I give them credit for. They know me.
They know some deep truths.
Things I haven't said, out loud at least, but probably hinted at. I mean, they've seen my drawings. They've heard me ramble for hours every day, even though I try to hide. Even though I try to hide the secrets in this world. Fail to hide the secrets. It must be written on my face. I've got the drawing in front of me. I can see the violent man. I can see the brute. I can see the monster without a mind, so stuck in the old ways that they have to destroy what comes next. Impervious to beauty and to change. I can see the large, innocent one, the gentle power, the willingness to embrace and to be embraced, to open fully and accept another within, so full of hope there isn't room for fear. I can see the small, innocent one, the eyes full of trust and love. The spirit always adventurous, wanting to explore, to push forward, knowing she's safe because the violent man doesn't look violent. He has tears in his eyes, and he's shaking because he's scared. And he keeps whispering words of love and compassion and telling her that everything will be alright. That they would find each other again. That he wouldn't be far behind. That her mother would be waiting for her and Daddy. And Daddy would be coming right after. And there is no reason to be scared because it's all going to be okay.
But Daddy didn't follow.
Because the violent man is, and always will be, a coward. A stupid coward that can't even hide the secrets in the world. A stupid coward that spoils everything.
I think Janice left the drawing on purpose. think I might be in love.
Introducing G.I. Jane.
Espionage Report 3. I have finally located their camp. Their hovel. They're
dead.
They're sneaky little fucks, I'll give them that, but I found them. They're camped out in this big old apartment building that overlooks the lake. Probably would have cost $1 million to live there back in the day, but looks like they'll just let anybody in now. Standards in this city have really dropped, and that's a shame. Somebody really ought to do something about that. Property values could go down, bunch of people with scars and shit shooting guns and living right next to the park. We can't have that. Not when I'm trying to raise a kind young man that doesn't need any of that nonsense near him. There used to be a lot of rules, if I remember correctly, about what you could or couldn't do to get somebody out of an apartment. Paperwork on top of paperwork on top of paperwork. I can remember my mother so long ago arguing with a landlord about that. He didn't have the paperwork, so we weren't leaving. Isn't that a weird trick that the brain does? I can remember the fucking paperwork, but not my own mother's face. It's just a female shape with a scribble for a face, throwing blank papers at a man shape. Well, what use is memory if that's all I get? But that's a tangent. We don't need tangents. We need real, direct action. How about the paperwork never included sending in a mudman to fuck some shit up? Or 2, or 5, or as many as I can gather. A little Pied Piper of death and assimilation. You ignorant fools, living high off my accomplishments in the north. Welcome to the city proper, where the amalgamations are still wild and free, and being in a large group just makes you a bigger target. These things killed the world. They might as well kill you too. After Action Report 1. Sometimes things just work. I found a guitar in a case on the street, figured that was as good of a noisemaker as anything, got the attention of a couple mudmen, and then their groans and weird rattles grabbed a few more, and those a few more, and so on and so forth, and all that jazz. It got a little tricky closer to the building. I'd been watching their patrols, so I knew the habits they were keeping, and avoiding the guard wasn't crazy difficult, but that was the easy bit. The hard part was actually getting them inside. A brick through the window might open a hole for them, but it was me they wanted, and they weren't going to chase a brick when the lady with a guitar was right there. Sneaky was the way to go. Pry the emergency exit on the side, no outer handle, so no security needed. Or so they thought. Prop it open and duck in quick. Into the blackness. Followed by a trail of monsters. Fucking working with monsters. Me! Who'd have thought? I hadn't counted on the darkness, which was stupid, I know. I'm still kicking myself for that. Everything could have been over right then and there. Thankfully, a tiny bit of moonlight came in with the open door before the space was too blocked up by the creatures, and I managed to find a small table and hoist myself into the drop ceiling. The first few behind me saw what I had done and tried to reach up for me, but their fellows behind them hadn't seen and just kept pushing through the door, and anything that knew where I had hidden myself was swept into the building by a wave of terrible things that used to be people. The screams and gunfire came soon after. Music to my ears. The flow of mudmen trickled past me, and when it stopped, I hopped down and made my escape. Not even a shot fired at me as far as I know. Seemed they had more pressing issues at the time. All in all, a success, I suppose. We'll see what they do next. Oh, a little addendum to this. So, I'm not at the temporary home base spot. I figured just in case somebody did manage to see me running off and decided to follow, it'd be a bad idea to lead them back to Peyton, so I found a liquor store. Decided to celebrate a bit, and here we are. What was I saying again? Right, so on the way, I could swear...
I kept seeing faces just out of the corner of my vision.
Honestly thought for a second that Peyton had followed me, but he knows to stay put when I tell him to stay put, so it couldn't be him, but the faces look just like his face. Or most of his face. But it couldn't be because he... But I don't hallucinate. I don't see faces. I see real things. He's waiting for me back at the base. He has to, because the park is the safe place for us, because there's no... The park is the safe place for us because there's no faces in the park. But how can there be no faces in the park when he's in the park? When he's alone in the park and I had to leave him because he's only a little kid, and it's so hard to take care of him because I'm only a little kid, except no, because I'm not little. I
feel little, but I'm not little because it's been so long since...
Oh no.
I think he's next to me. I think he's smiling at me. I think he wants me to go with him.
This isn't a report. I'm in control of reports, and I'm not in control of this. I'm a sheep being led along a path. I don't know where the path ends. The slaughterhouse, probably. Peyton is walking in front of me. I don't know if he's real or not. At this point, I don't know if I'm real or not. For all I know, I fell out of the ceiling during the Mudman attack, hit my head, and this is just what dying feels like. Or maybe I never even made it to the park. Maybe I'm still under the GWB dying of exposure. At this point, I'm gonna have to decide whether all this is worth it or not. Insanity takes its toll on you, especially during those precious few moments when your real mind swims back up to the surface and gasps for air. You pray you won't, but you know that soon enough you'll sink again. And so you start to think about
ending things.
It's an impulse that only happens when your mind is cleared from the haze that your life has become. You can see the world clearly. See the ruins of possibility. See what we have amounted to in our thousands of years. Trash. Madness. A rough and oozing scab on the face of Mother Earth, slowly being healed by time. I tried running after Peyton at first, but he can't be caught. He's always out of reach. On the edge of my vision, all around like a halo, there are only eyes. Some have faces. Most of them don't. But what does that even matter anymore? Peyton stopped and I blinked and he was gone. We were in front of a giant, dark building. Familiar building. Of course it was. Something pressed against the inside of my skull. An idea or a parasite. Both. It doesn't matter. The door opened because of course it did. It swung wide on its own, or maybe I pulled it. I don't know anymore. I saw a stairwell and I knew I would take it to the top floor. My feet knew the way, even though my mind said this place was new.
My mind cannot be trusted.
The stairwell echoed. Part of it was from my footsteps. Part of it was the screams that must have been trapped here for years and years.
I'm almost positive that this screaming voice was mine, even though I didn't make a sound while I climbed. Memory and reality meshed together. That's just the way of things. I'm standing in front of an open door. The room beyond is completely white, and I can feel a breeze on my skin. Somebody must have broken a window a long time ago. The parasite presses against my skull again, and I know I'll have to enter the room.
Eyes and faces block my exit.
I blink, and Peyton is inside the room. He holds out his hand. There's nothing else for it, I suppose. Every choice is the same.
It's time.
The stories remain. But for now, we rest, we reflect, and we take from this what we can. Take this with you as you journey through your own mind. No matter how dark it seems, there will always be voices from the Umbra.
Voices from the Umbra and the Think Tank High Council would like to thank the research team, who so bravely connected to the individual voices themselves at no small personal risk. When they leave us, may their memory be forever enshrined in the heart of the universe. They are James L. Booker III, Betsy Eliza, Joe Hansen, and Liz Martelli. Voices from the Umbra and the Think Tank High Council would like to thank the archival team, who each gave a part of themselves to further the vision of the species they were born as. May the gifts they gave us be cherished always. They are Kelsey Potter, Chase Knieven, Alexander Wolf, and Edward Hoffman. If you feel the stirrings of curiosity within your soul, or simply wish to connect to the voices on a deeper level by seeing art and artifacts produced by those whom you've just heard, as well as a blog chronicling the history of our organization and writings from our leader, Grandfather Spalding, please join us online at voicesfromtheumbra.com. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/voicesfromtheumbra, and our Twitter is Umbra Podcast. Our email is vftumbramail@yahoo.com. They call, and we hear them. They are hurt, and we accept their pain. They are at their end, and we will carry them in our memory. Bear witness to the voices from the Umbra.